All right, so we are back with our party topic, and this one is a little interesting. We might ruffle some feathers, but nonetheless, we've got to discuss something that is tribalism. And for those of you that may not know what
Boo!
that means, it's so the dictionary says the state or fact of being organized in a tribe or tribes, or the way that we should know the behavior and attitudes that stem from strong loyalty to one's own tribe or social group. So,
And that's a noun, by the way.
yes. It's often derogatory if we're really going by the dictionary. So, whether
Thank you,
that's
Webster.
whether it's a console fandom, casual versus hardcore gamers, sports team rivalries, Epic versus Steam, Unreal Engine versus Unity, or elitism based on controller styles or GPUs or game genres, gaming has a tribalism problem. And the question here is that something that we can move beyond? We've got some hypotheticals to discuss, but what do you guys think?
Here's Thomas. Thomas said he didn't have a ton to say about this. He wants to take a backseat and see what we say. So here's my thoughts on this. I want to consume as much shit as I can. Give me the shit, munja, munja, munja. I am going to eat it up, right? So to me, it is weird that people are like, oh, well, I only play PlayStation games, or I only play on Xbox, or what have you, right?
Well, only playing on something can sometimes mean it's all I have.
That's true.
But what
it becomes
you're really talking about is like, oh, I won't play anything else because I'm a Microsoft guy. I've been a Gears or Halo guy since the start, and those are the colors.
If you think that the Gears of War storytelling is up to par with the things that are happening on Sony's side, you are gravely mistaken.
And now we're gonna fight, though. We're gonna fight.
I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna say, like, if you are only over here, you are missing out on stuff on the opposite side that is just as good, if not better, on that opposite side. Now, I will say, when I only had a PlayStation and I was only playing PlayStation games, I was like, I don't really see a point of having an Xbox. But I would see games that I always wanted to play. Ori, Sunset Overdrive, all these things, right? And a problem with what has happened recently with this tribalism thing is one company had a ton of exclusives and the other company had Zippo for like 3 years. It was like we got this one, and then maybe in another 8 months we'll have another one. It was just very sporadic. So you had people diving deeper into their tribalism about, see, PlayStation is better. And I personally think that the storytelling over at PlayStation is pretty phenomenal. And if they go, it's a third-person action game, I'm like, yeah, I'm probably going to check that out. Even if I don't love it, right? Even I didn't love Ghost of Tsushima. I was just like, this is fine. But I just came off of playing The Last of Us 2. So I was like, this isn't the same for me. I'm not getting the same enjoyment. But if you're only over here playing a PlayStation 4 or what have you, then you're missing out on Xbox Game Pass. And that's the best deal in games. And you get to play so many great things. It's so confusing to me in this day and age when we have access to all of these different things. You can enjoy pieces of all of it. You know, you don't have to be so loyal to one thing that you won't ever do the other thing. This kind of happens with everything, right? It's not just in games. This is in
the thing that I was coming back to is like, why do you want to fight so hard, either for something or against something, right? You look online and somebody will be like, why would it'll be like, well, PlayStation 5s are hard to get. And people will be like, that's why I'm an Xbox guy. And it's like, okay, well, first of all, that's kind of a stupid thing to say. Like, you're an Xbox guy because pre-ordering is hard because supply is weird during a pandemic. Like, that's
because the
really
PlayStation
weird,
5 is the highest selling console ever in its first
a really
few months.
weird hill
It's
to
so
stand on.
weird. Yeah, it's like.
But the point is, like, the stuff goes back and forth. I think Xbox 360 beat out the PS3. I mean, I don't have numbers in front of me, but I think the 360 was more successful than the PS3.
Yes.
I think the PS4 was more successful than the Xbox One.
Yes.
Right?
By too much, yeah.
By a lot. By a lot.
And you can trace it back. It's a pendulum swing because that's how markets work. Because when you're behind, you have to get ahead. And so when the pendulum would swing backwards because the people who needed to get better will get better, or they'll fall behind. But there's so much money invested in these companies that they're not going to allow themselves to fall behind. If it comes to it, they will spend money until they find their solution, which right in this generation, Microsoft's solution is we have a bunch of first-party things. Also, we have Game Pass as a subscription, which not only works for your console, it also works on your PC. So, like for me, I have a PS5. I don't have any reason to buy an Xbox Series X
because you have a PC, right?
Yeah, but it's fine because I have Game Pass, and so I can play tons of games on PC. If I owned a PC and an Xbox, then I would have access to all those games on both systems. So if I wanted to sit on my couch the way I like playing my PlayStation, I could do that and still have access to this massive library. But the point is that if you have this opinion that your site is better, cool if you think that's fine. But to go online and like really rail on people for liking the other thing, it's like, dude, nobody's paying you to do this. Like, no one's on your side.
Bro, I gotta get that sponsorship though.
You ain't gonna get it.
With
not like that.
Like, I have politicians I like a lot, and as much as I would love to say that they are good people or that they have my best interest at heart, at the end of the day, they don't know me. They are not my friend. They are doing a job to get elected, maybe to do, things for whatever purpose, but they are not my friend. And if someone's in a business, the owner of a business might be someone who serves me very well, or I may enjoy their company when I go into a brick and mortar building or something. But usually they're not your friend. And like Phil Spencer, he's not your friend. Whoever the CEO of Sony is, who I can't remember the name of right now, not your friend. Like you're wasting your breath to go online and spend time being mad at someone because you've planted your flag. Like when I see people do it, I'm just like, straight up, I don't need you on my feed. Like I don't care if I have nothing better to do. I don't have time to watch you rail.
Listen, Sakurai is my best friend.
Oh,
Hideo Kojima is my second best friend.
Best friend.
I think you need to realize how close we really are.
You know what? I just
like
didn't realize.
This.
I just didn't realize.
I will say, in an even more befuddling way, is the Steam and Epic thing that you brought up, Carlos. It's literally you just download something onto your computer. It doesn't harm your computer. It is just a storefront, and they give you free shit. They give you free shit every month.
A lot.
Right. And that's the thing about competition there. Like, as somebody who rails on capitalism a lot, and I stand by those statements.
Same.
It is nice to have a real competitor to Steam, finally, given that I didn't have a PC during a lot of the past decade. So a lot of the monopolization that you'd see on Steam or monetization of a bunch of things, the fact that Steam didn't have a real competitor was, I think, harmful. Or at least it prevented, like, not having a competitor meant there was growth not happening. So really there's an opportunity cost. Well, Epic shows up and they say, hey, we're going to offer you all these free games. Oh, you're using Steam as well? Okay, cool. That's fine. They're still free.
You can do
still
both.
Get these games.
You could do both.
And also, when you do stuff like if you're a developer, you make your game, if you want to make it exclusive. Well, if you want to deliver to everybody, cool. But if Steam and Epic now have incentives to make it better for you as a developer, where they were saying, like, hey, we're going to reduce the cut that we take. When you sell a game, instead of taking 30%, we're going to take, like, 12% or something.
Yeah, that's better for a developer.
Those numbers that Epic did. Yeah, and so, like, it's totally cool to prefer something, to even, like, have a heated debate about, like, the pros and cons of one. But I think, like, the tribalism, truly at its core, is people really having that argument with their emotions and not they're not there to listen. They're there to shout.
Yeah.
And so when I see people, I honestly forget that a lot of that tribalism exists until I dip my toe into a community or a corner of the internet that I don't usually frequent, and I'm just like, oh, it's just as hot as it ever was. Like, people in here are mad.
And I think in our community, it's pretty great that we don't have that very often, or at least as much as you would normally see it. But this tribalism thing it's not just in games. It just seems to be too much in games, where it is out in front. If you love video games, you should not care how you are getting them or which company they're coming from. Games are just cool, right? So get as much as you can from Microsoft, from Sony, from Nintendo, from Epic, from Steam.
Try so many of them and so many services for almost
do it
nothing.
works for you.
Yeah, just
I
enjoy.
Say, like, another reason, like something like Game Pass is nice, right? Like if this is it's very much a do what works for you, but don't rail on everyone else because what works for you is the same as what works for them. With Game Pass, I've seen people online, especially people who don't traditionally play games, usually people on my feed outside of gaming who are like, hey, I got a wife and kids, I got a full-time job, I got a busy, extracurricular schedule too. Somebody tell me how I can play games in a way that makes sense. And for me, I'm like, well, that is Game Pass for you. You get this, you get this massive library, you get all the stuff, and I think you're going to enjoy it because you can play a ton of short little games, or you can get access to that $60 game that you want, plus all this other stuff. Or you might be a person who's like, hey, I just want, I have a ton of time, not a ton of money. What do I do? And I'll be like, okay, Lizzie plays Elder Scrolls Online. You can play that game for free and love it, and pay whatever the $40 is, I think, to buy it, plus expansions and stuff, and just get so many hours out of it. But like, what are you gonna say if I recommend Elder Scrolls Online? What are you gonna be like? No, WoW's better. Like, I don't have time for that. Like, if you're gonna tell me why it's better, then tell me why it's better. But like, take a deep breath. Like, speak with your head as well as your heart.
And like, maybe you can get on that free trial.
There is like, I agree. You can like things more. Like, I will sit at home and watch, let's say, the NBA playoffs and keep seeing commercials for F9, and I'm like, who the fuck is going to watch this? And it turns out a lot of fucking people are.
Yeah.
But I don't enjoy that. But you don't. I'm not in my older years have I been going on the internet and being like, if you like Fast and Furious, you are a stupid head. Like, I just don't like.
Right.
I'm just
caps lock engage.
Caps lock.
Yeah.
I can think that in my own brain, in my own house, and maybe say something out in my own house, out into the world. Like, this is stupid. But there's no point in doing that. There's no benefit to anyone to do it online. There is this tribalism stuff.
You do you.
This tribalism stuff isn't just in video games. It's in professional wrestling, which is also something I enjoy, where people will just be like, well, this company is better than this company. It's like, how about there's probably good matches on each, and you can watch them all if you want. If you don't like one, you don't have to watch it or engage in it at all. Like, you just don't have to deal with it. Like, it's wild. I don't understand
I
this.
Myself more interested in wrestling as I get older, because I basically realized what the reality of wrestling and the fandoms are, and I like it way more than when I was a kid and totally misunderstood it, because I didn't have anybody in my life when I was younger who did like wrestling. It was just totally esoteric to me. Like, I didn't understand the performance of it.
Yeah, it's like they're doing weird physical performance art.
Yeah,
that always isn't. It's not always great acting. I'm not going to say that the acting is good or they're talking well, but the stuff they do is pretty incredible.
It's certainly performative.
Yes.
So as like a casual wrestling fan, like as casual as you could possibly be, I like looking at a lot of wrestling stuff, because when people talk about wrestling, they generally just seem so excited in a positive way. Like, I'm not in any spheres where people are like hashing out beef of any kind about wrestling, and that's totally fine with me. I see all these different ones crop up, like, you know, WWE's been around, but like AEW and a bunch of stuff. Again, I'm as casual as they come. Do not at me on this on Twitter. But that stuff excites me to see people excited about a bunch of different, basically competitors, providing a similar product. Because I just love to see people discovering new things and being really excited about them. We've talked a lot about the console fandoms, but we've got right here, we got the casual versus hardcore gamers. We had a conversation in our Facebook group earlier this week about nerfs in, I think it was specifically Destiny. It was like, the question was, how do you guys feel about nerfs in a game where you have to spend a lot of time to unlock a really powerful item?
Yeah. It was like, how do you, I think Andrew posted it. It was like something like, how do you feel about like having to unlock something with hours of play and then that thing kind of getting nerfed or like
having
down.
It just watered down.
Yeah.
Where like you're one of the people who worked so hard to get it, and now they watered it down because people who couldn't get it complained about not being able to get it. And so that is, we could talk a whole lot about this, but the true, what it really comes down to is when you're playing a game that's massively multiplayer, like WoW, like Destiny, you know, like Elder Scrolls, you have so many different types of people playing your game. You have the people who play it 8 hours every day. You have, you know, whether they're streamers or just, you know, hobbyists. And then you have people who pop in and play for 1 hour every day. Or you have people who play for 3 hours twice a month. You know, you have all sorts of different types of players with all sorts of capabilities and commitment, you know, different ways they can play. And
yes.
Thinking, I don't know, one of our, Dakota, who's Ducky Metric, on Twitch. He's regularly streaming a bunch of stuff lately. He just hit Twitch affiliate, actually, so shout out to him. He was said, like, he said nothing short of casual players ruin games. And I totally understand what he's saying, because to the very serious player, it's casuals like me who show up and they're like, no, I literally don't have time to unlock this, but I want it. Like, I don't have 20 hours every week to play this. I only have 5 hours a week to play this. Like, please help me unlock this thing. And so the game developers have to make a decision. Do they make the thing easier to get at the same strength so everybody has this overpowered item? Or do they, you know, leave it where it's at and keep the casual players unhappy? Or what they usually do is make it easier to get and make the weapon weaker, or the item weaker. You know, based on, you know, if it's not difficult to get, then don't make it super strong. But that upsets the people who are really hardcore players.
That had to play for a long time to even earn that. Yeah.
So it's dicey. And that is one of the few examples where I can totally see both sides of people actually getting upset about their position. Because on one hand, this person worked real hard and it got taken away from them. On the other hand, these other people love this game and literally don't have the time in their lives to unlock it. It's just not feasible. And then you go online and you see these conversations, how they usually play out. And it's usually both sides just saying F you to each other. They're just like, well, if you really wanted to unlock it, you'd play more. And it's like, well, that's not constructive to me at all. Like,
yeah, that's like,
you're not helping me.
If they don't have the time, then they just don't have the time. Like, it's
right.
okay.
Let me just drop my kid off for a month at my mom's house, you know?
Right.
Yep. So that's one of the few where it's kind of dicey, because you're a company, a game is trying to appeal to so many different people. You're gonna make somebody upset.
Yeah.
And I don't see how you're gonna avoid that. I would just say that, hey, just be nice to people online. just see it from their perspective, because it's not as simple as doing it the way that you do it. Because when does that ever work?
A little empathy goes a long way on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of discussions to be had there. It's not even just, you know, casuals versus hardcore. There's accessibility options in games, which is a huge ass discussion.
Right.
That spawns a whole lot of debate And thankfully, at least in the Twitter gaming world, we have a lot more conversation thanks to people like Steven Spawn and a few other advocates for accessibility in games. It's like,
Yeah.
shit, yeah, you may physically be capable of playing this game for 60 plus hours. This dude over here, he may not be able to. He might be working with, fucking missing fingers and can barely like do what he needs to with a regular controller, or has to get an advanced. I forget what the adaptive controller that Microsoft put out. Like everybody's in a different situation. Maybe, just maybe, we should let everybody play our games. And then, of course, there's things that come down to the developer level, the publisher level, like the whole Sony issue with Days Gone, of saying, maybe you should buy our fucking game at full price. Like
It's like, well,
there's
then
all
maybe you
these
should have,
different
when the game came
discussions.
out, it should have been ready to go and not clunky and bad. And it reviewed bad. Sorry, bud. That's the way it works. Like,
But at the same time, not everybody's a fucking Armored Core fan.
Right.
So, that series is going to continue selling like 800,000 copies. Or Metroid, for example, it's been a huge fucking conversation. Metroid has never sold more than, I think it's 2.6 or 2.8 million copies for any of their titles, and everybody's wondering, is
Really?
Metroid Dread
Yeah,
going to be the one finally?
it's
Like,
never sold
yeah.
crazy high numbers. It's always been like the least
Never.
selling Nintendo
Yeah.
brand.
But
Damn,
it's
I
huge.
didn't
Like
know that.
everybody talks about it still. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's like, are we going to continue getting the games we want if we're just fucking limiting each other and shitting on everything that comes out because of this or that? That's based in the tribalism. So
There is
yeah,
and a lot of this stuff is it like bleeds into other things. Like you saying, like, everybody talks about wanting a new Metroid, but Metroid never sells. That reminds me of and
Yeah.
this is gonna get silly, but there's a Kendrick Lamar lyric that's like, he says, if you guys missed when hip hop was rapping, motherfucker, if you did, Killer Mike would be platinum.
nice.
Literally not wrong. Like saying, like, Killer, if you really cared about that stuff, then Killer Mike would sell insane amounts of records, and Run the Jewels would sell insane amounts of records. And
Yeah.
it's just the way the stuff is different now. It's not as it's all this tribalism stuff is not just in gaming. It's kind of everywhere. But as long as we here at Party Invite can be like, hey, we don't do that here. Like, we just enjoy games. And if you enjoy games too, then come hang out and talk about games. But we don't want to have fights about if God of War 2016 is better than Gears of War. Like,
one of the things, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but one of the things that is really grates on me that I am happy to not see anymore is the like get good conversations. It's like it's about. I mean, it goes into the conversation of casual versus hardcore and stuff. It's that Dark Souls and those kinds of games are really difficult, and that's the point. And so the question there is like, yeah, we want games in general to be accessible to people, but here the barrier truly is that it's so difficult. It's not accessibility on the traditional, like with the adaptive controller, where it's like, I physically am now able to play this where before I wasn't.
right.
Or colorblind mode. Like it's a different thing from that. It's that this game was designed to be brutal, impossible. The point is that it's impossible, and that's what makes the victories so sweet.
Like
that's
Celeste.
What people
Like, I bounced off of every Souls game I've ever played because I think it's too difficult. My brain can't wrap around it. And it has nothing to do with getting good. My brain just is like, I don't get it. But with Celeste, that game is hard as hell. The game is so hard.
It is, but then they have that assist mode where you can get unlimited jumps if you want. You can slow down time if you
Do
want.
basically
I
anything.
I never cheated that way. I wanted to beat the game
And
as it
I
was
was doing all
intended. So I did, I did the thing. But whenever I got to the end, they're like, "Oh yeah, the strawberry pie is pretty lacking in strawberries. I was like, fuck
Oh,
you.
did they say that?
Yeah, they're like, yeah, there's not a lot of strawberries in here. And I was like, fucker. Like, yes, I
funny.
beat the game. Yes, I got to the end and beat the game. But it was basically
collect
telling
any of
me I collected a lot. Like, I thought I collected
Oh yeah, there's
abundance of
tons
them.
of hidden
But
ones.
but it becomes like a point where you're just like, I see that strawberry. Fuck that strawberry. I'm just getting through this part of the level, you know?
I'll come back later if I have it in me.
And technically, I had to get good at that game in order to play it. There's a lot of games like that. Like if you like a Hyper Light Drifter or something, you put that down for a while and then go, I'm going to come back to it. You're going to get wrecked when you go back into that game because your muscle memory and you are unfamiliar with how that works. You know, and with Celeste too. Like after playing Celeste like a lot, and then if you set it down and go back, you were like, God damn, this is so hard.
Yeah, it takes some picking up. Yeah. So the interesting thing there is that like Dark Souls has been around for ages, and Celeste was essentially a standalone game. It's made by the people who made Towerfall, so it's very similar, but effectively, people know what Celeste is. And don't always know what Towerfall is. That's a very broad statement I just made. But with Dark Souls, that is a franchise that's been around for a long time. And so for them to change that formula to now give it an assist mode essentially changes what that game is at its core. Because the game isn't all about beating it. Like, Celeste wants you to beat the game. That's why they give you the tools to beat the game. But Dark Souls is just like, I don't know, man. You bought the game. You do it. Like you
I ain't telling you
what
shit.
You're getting into. You're right.
I mean, now you could watch some YouTube tutorials that would probably help you understand stuff better, and get you on that path to getting good. A little easier. But
there are ways. It's just it was grating to me. I used to regularly see people have these conversations about. Like, man, I'm struggling with this game. Can you guys help me out? Get good, scrub. Get good, scrub. Get good, scrub.
It's like,
and
just,
I'm just like,
actually just help me.
I get it was funny the first time, but I've seen the same exact thread 100 times, and all of the comments are get better or go suck eggs. You know,
get good.
And it's just,
is that the what's the like, sun? The sun.
Oh, the praise the sun guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I find those conversations to be very tiresome because, to what you said earlier, Carlos, they could really use some empathy. It's not about who's right or wrong or even who the game is supposed to appeal to. Man, just listen to people. If they got something to say, then listen to them. But don't condemn people because their situation is different than you. Because at the end of the day, you're buying a product to consume it. You're all consumers. Producers want to sell their product to you. You're all consumers. There's no reason to look at everyone or anyone like they're an enemy, like they are someone who you need to be mad at, because that makes no sense. Doesn't make any sense.
Why would I be mad at you that you like an Xbox and I like a PlayStation? That makes no
Master
sense.
Chief.
That makes zero sense. It makes no sense.
I think that stuff. I think it's here to stay. I think it's human nature to want to rally against a common cause than it is to rally for a common cause. That's why I think that's why political tribalism is so powerful, because it's more difficult to learn positive reinforcement for an idea that you like. It's a lot easier. Like, as I've gotten older, I'm all of 30 years old now, freaky bones. I've learned that getting old is, for me, a lot more about learning what I don't like rather than learning what I do like. And I think as you get older, you have more things you're like, I'm not sure what I do like, but I don't like that. I don't like that, and I'm gonna tell you about it. And because it's easy to pick out the things you don't like, it's also easy to connect with other people who dislike the same things as you. So the older you get, you're more likely to find a team that's against something than it is to find a team that's truly for something. So I think this stuff, gaming or otherwise, it's here to stay. That's humanity for you.
Yeah.
We're good at getting torches and pitchforks, and creating a lot of trash. Those are things that humans are really good at.
Pretty good at it.
So I don't think they're gonna go anywhere. But yeah, I think we could all be a little more empathetic and listen.
All right, guys. So that was our on tribalism, which might be a little bit of a spicy topic, but hopefully you guys in our community will get a little bit of something out of that, and hop on by and talk to us a little bit about our viewpoints, and let's see what you think about how tribalism has been in games and what we can do about it.